one of those missionaries that we have been able to support over the past few years is my friend Joe Amaral. Joe's just been a wonderful friend, confidant to me, and partner in ministry. And he's done everything from shoot videos, take teams over to Israel. He's always been known for his wealth and depth of knowledge in the Holy Land. And he's written books galore. He's got a new one out right now called "Get Off Your Ash," and it's pretty funny. It was pretty incredible. I asked him to share just briefly about that in a few minutes. But one of the things that I'm most proud of him for, if I can use that word, and most encouraged is his response to the gospel as it relates to Liberia. Joe is one of the very few, if not the only missionaries that I know that is specifically called to Liberia. I've asked him to share today on his story in Liberia, why God called him to Liberia, how God called him to Liberia, and how him just responding to God's call has opened up a world of opportunity, and it's just been absolutely amazing. So without any further ado, I'm going to call Joe up here and ask him to share with you what God has positioned in his heart towards Liberia. God bless you, brother.
Thanks, man. Well, good morning. Look at you, beautiful people. Human beings in the building. That's awesome. And next time I come, I'll get to see more than just your eyeball, so I'm looking forward to that. How many people are ready to move on? Half of you? Okay, great. Josh, thank you so much, man, for the invitation to be here this morning and to share with the Kingsview family what God is doing with us in Liberia. And before I get to that, I can't let go of what Josh said. With two things. Number one, I think we found the anthem for our ministry. We're called Hope for Liberia, and that song was Hope in the morning, Hope in the evening, Hope, Hope. And I was like, that's the anthem, man. I mean, that was just so perfect. But he mentioned a book that I just released, and I'm just going to talk about it for 2 minutes because I do think it's really, really timely for everything that we've gone through as Earth, really. Everybody has gone through the same thing. And he mentioned the title, and some people struggle with the title. Can you see that? What does that say? Why would I write a book called Get Off Your Ash? First of all, because it's really fun to say in church. The 13-year-old boy comes out of me every time. But this goes back to the life of Job. Job is the man who lost everything, all his animals, his livestock, his wealth. He lost his business. Everything he worked his entire life for was gone in a day. And then he loses his 10 children, his 7 sons and his 3 daughters. And culturally we learned that they would burn everything after loss. And the Bible tells us that Job just sat on a giant pile of ash. And for 40 chapters, he vents. He talks about the grief, the hurt, the pain, the anger, the shame, the unforgiveness, the why me. And it wasn't until the end of the book where he literally got off of his ash, that pile he was sitting on, that God was able to restore to him everything that he had lost. And I don't know about you, but I've had a big old pile of ash in my life. Anybody ever been disappointed, hurt, angry, frustrated, even with God? Well, this whole book is about how to move forward, how to disconnect from all that pain in the past, how to get off of that pile of ash that's poisoning you, that's leaking into your system, that's changing your personality, altering the way you behave, and how do you get off of that pile? And then what's on the other side once you get off of your ash, once you get off of that pile of ash that you've been sitting on? What's waiting for you? Well, what's waiting is joy, man, that I can't explain. So how many people here would say, Joe, I need to get off my ash? Let me see one person. Okay, this dear lady here. No, you need to get off your ash and come here. And get the book. Okay, enough about that. I am so excited to be able to share about what God is doing through us and in us in Liberia. I never dreamed in my life that I would be there doing this, but yet here I am. In fact, 2 weeks today, I'll be on a plane heading back to Liberia. I'm so blessed that during the pandemic, I've been able to go 4 times. Even at the height when cases were spiking, God just gave me the ability to get on that plane, man, and fly through all these crazy countries and connections and take 2, 3, 4, 5 times longer than it should, but I wanted to get there. I wanted to be with the people. You're going to hear today about, the children that we're working with, and I needed to be with them. I needed to see them no matter what. And so I'm thankful that I get to share with you today. But let's start with a reality check. And let's be honest and say that the past 2 years, without a doubt, have been the most challenging season of our lifetimes. Would you agree with that? And no matter where you landed on the various issues, with the vaccines and masks and lockdowns and proof of vaccinations and all that, no matter where you landed on that, I think we can agree that it's been hard. I mean, really hard. It's affected families. It's affected communities, churches, cities, countries. It's been really hard. Learning to live life through Zoom. How many people are sick of Zoom? In the beginning, hey, let's have a Zoom meeting. Let's have a Zoom meeting. There's Zoom games. Zoom. And that's all we wanted to do. And they're like, oh, another Zoom meeting? Right? Learning to live life virtually. Drive-by birthday parties. Remember that at the beginning of the pandemic? Holding signs from 100 feet away from your loved ones. It's been hard. No Christmas, no Thanksgiving. I turned 50 during the pandemic, and I was expecting lots of praise and cash and got neither. The world shut down on March 13th. My birthday is March 30th. I just missed my big 50th. So hopefully this year we'll be able to do something with that. Mentally, it's been difficult. Right? We've struggled with depression and anxiety. Is this ever going to end? Is it ever going to get back to normal? And when it does, what's that going to look like? It's just been so difficult. And what about financially? It's been a struggle. It's been a challenge for churches, for companies, for individuals, for families. Either losing your job completely or having a reduction of income because of the way things had to be done moving forward. And now the cost of daily essentials and food, like food and fuel are on the rise. I mean, we have friends, and Josh, you probably noticed the gas prices in the U.S. Everything is going up. And I think it's up to about $4 a gallon in the U.S., $4.40. Well, where we work in Liberia, the gas is now at $9.20 U.S. a gallon. And people make $1.25 a day, so you do the math of how you're supposed to get around and get to work and do everything you have to do. But here's the crazy part. Despite this global financial challenge and this global pandemic that we've been going through, this tiny little ministry called Hope for Liberia that didn't exist more than 2 years ago, God has been blessing it. What we were able to do in 2020 and in 2021, at the height of the worst season of this generation, God blessed us more than we could ever imagine. And I'm giving you these numbers not because we're boasting, but because we just want to show you how good God is and what happens when you say yes, when you dare to be obedient. Like, I dare you to obey God. Hey, God, I'm 50. My life is great. I'm pastoring at a really big church. I'm doing really well. And then God says, I want you to go to one of the poorest countries in the world and give up everything, salaries, benefits, everything you have, and go. And what seems like a demotion was actually the biggest promotion of my life. And during these last 2 years, and again, I share this because I am so thankful, the donations and the giving of Hope for Liberia went up almost 300%. 297 to be exact. In 2020, we received $140,000 in donations, and we got our charitable status in November, the second last month of the year. And last year, we were able to receive just over $550,000 to do the work that God has called us to do in West Africa. Come on, man. God is good. I didn't come to a church last time I was here, I was talking to a camera, and I had to pretend you were saying amen. I want to hear it today. I could have stayed home and done this over Zoom, okay? But I wanted to be in the room. And so little Liberia, this is Africa, one of the largest continents in the world, made up of more than 50 countries. And as you kind of go up the center of Africa, you go west, you come into the area known as West Africa. And then on the coast, there's this little unknown country called Liberia. And Liberia is consistently and constantly ranked as one of the poorest countries in the world. Canadian dollars, they make about $1.50 a day, and that's working 14 to 15 hours every single day. And most people live off of one bowl of rice every other day for the whole family to share. I'm telling you, it's a difficult place to be. They suffered back-to-back civil wars from 1987 to 2003. Over 250,000 of people were killed, and it decimated the country's infrastructure. That left most people without access to electricity, almost no functioning hospitals or schools, and probably the worst thing, no clean drinking water. I won't show you the pictures of where we've had to get water to drink, to cook, and to bathe in. All the same water source, and children are constantly struggling with malaria, typhoid, and cholera, all these waterborne diseases. And then you add to that the 2014 Ebola pandemic that Liberia specifically went through. And then, this thing called the COVID-19 pandemic. You tack all this on, you build all of this up. And what you end up is with a country that's struggling with widespread death and suffering. And you're saying, Joe, why in the world would you want to go back? Because I love the people. I love the people. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about the people. Their paintings are on my wall. Their pictures are the background to my desktop. I wake up saying, Lord, how can we raise more today? Lord, what can we do today? How can we help them more today? And I struggle to sleep because I get these ideas at night and I got to write them down real quick and say, Lord, how do I implement them? God, open up doors. I said, God, I'm so sick and tired of building the kingdom of Joe. I'm so sick and tired of building my own little kingdom. I want to build your kingdom. I want to do what you've called me to do. God, give us the people who are like-minded. Give us the people who have a passion and who will dare to be obedient. So I end up in Liberia, this country that I had never heard of before. I think this was the first church that actually had me in after I'd gone to Liberia. Had no idea what I was doing. Never trained to be a missionary. Pastor, speaker, TV, radio, writing, I can do all that. That's easy for me. What you find nervous, I find invigorating. And then God says, I want you to drop all that. You know, I traveled a lot over the years. I spent 20 years branding myself as the Israel guy, and I think a lot of people know me. We even had a company called Joe Israel, because nobody knew my last name. They said, Joe the Israel guy. Yeah, Joe Israel, that sounds good. And so I spent 20 years branding myself as that way. 14 of those years specifically was in the land of Israel, related to the country and the people there. And I raised almost $10 million for the ministry. And it was so easy to raise money for Israel because it's literally in the Bible. Bless Israel. Like it's the easiest thing to do. I said, God, this is too easy. Are they giving because of me? Are they giving because of you? And because I wasn't sure, that scared me. And so I went off to the next thing. I had the blessing of following David Maines as the host of 100 Huntley Street. They had millions of viewers. They had a huge a huge foundation of finances to draw from. All I had to do was get there and talk to that little red blinking light, and that was it. I said, God, this is easy. It's almost too easy. And then I got invited to join the staff of one of the largest churches in our district as their teaching pastor. And there's 2,000 or so plus people across 3 services. And all I had to do, this is my job description, just don't suck. Right? Just don't suck. You lose 100, gain 100, 2,000. That's a great number. And I remember being up there week after week just going, God, this is too easy. Not sucking, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Lord, I want to do something where people will look at it and say, there's no way Joe did that. There's no way he could do that. Only God could do that. And so I prayed this really silly prayer. I said, Lord, give me a ministry I can't do without you. If I can do it on my own, forget it. Forget it. And we've had this running joke in our marriage. We've been married for almost 32 years now, and for about 30 of those years, I always said, you know what? If the pastoring thing doesn't work out, let's just grow potatoes for Jesus. That's been our joke. And I'm going to end, because guess what God's called me to do? Grow potatoes for Jesus. We have an opportunity to buy 150 acres of farmland in the prime, fertile soil of Liberia, where we can feed tens of thousands of people every month. So watch what you pray for. We're still believing God for a call to Honolulu, but we'll see. You would have met this gentleman the last time I was here, Pastor Sam. He's the one who invited me to go to Liberia. He said, we can't pay you. There's no way anybody's going to buy a book because they make $30 to $40 a month as their full-time salary. So there's no way they're going to pay $20 for your book. We don't care how good it is. We can't afford to put you in a hotel. We'll do our best to feed you most days. And good luck with the malaria, but you're welcome to come over. I said, challenge accepted. My son and I got on a plane. It's amazing to look back now. We went with 7 suitcases filled with stuff like this, with toothpaste and toothbrushes and soccer balls and soap and all kinds of stuff. And I remember going with those 7 suitcases thinking, wow, God, if this is all we ever do, we get to bring 7 suitcases filled of these hygienic products to help these young people, then this has been a good thing to do. We had no idea what he was up to. This was just the smallest little step. This is the community that we started in. You can see this building here in the mid-left portion of your screen. This is the original school building, and back here is the church. And I don't know if you can see the roads. After a little bit of rain, they fill in with water. The roads aren't maintained by the government. They just kind of deteriorate on their own. And if you suffer from nausea, do not come to Liberia. If you suffer from, car sickness, don't come with me to Liberia. If you like roller coasters or Wonderland, every drive is a roller coaster in Liberia. The roads are just like this, and they're like this. And every trip, the car breaks down at least once. That is a standard thing when you go to Africa. Your car has to break down at least once, or you've not been to Africa. And it usually has to be in a place where there's no cell service and no one can come help you. That's when you know you've obeyed God. I'm telling you, man, there's been challenges. But I'm so glad I went because I was able to meet this little dude. And I talked about him the first time I came to this church, little Mitchell. And he was standing all by himself. The first time I saw him was the picture on the left there. He's wearing his pajamas in the middle of the day. Those are the best clothes he could find to come meet me. And I found out later that he's deaf and nonverbal and was super shy and had a real hard time meeting new people. And by the next time I came back to Liberia, that's my next trip, he was like a bear. He would not let go of my neck. He was on me all the time. And they didn't know if he'd ever be able to learn, because he'd never learned how to speak. He'd never learned how to sign. He had no idea how to communicate. And after a few weeks of being with him, And this is where it's hard to come home sometimes because you spend so much time with him. You just want to stay more and more. But after a few weeks of being with him, he came running over to me. And I won't mimic how he calls you, but he would call me in the best way that he could. And he pointed to the ground, and he was so proud of himself that he had written my name in the sand. And the teachers at the school said, wow, there is intelligence there. We just didn't know it, and we never pursued it. And now, man, he is part of the school. Look at him. That's just a few months ago. He's a different kid. You see what love can do? That human connection, finding the value inside every person. And I'm telling you, man, Mitchell is a different kid. And after that first trip, I came home. And I actually went to a church that you were pastoring, you were on staff at in Kingston. And I had just come back from Liberia, and I was jet-lagged, and in the middle of the night, I got this vision. I saw all this land, and I saw a highway, and I felt God saying, I want you to buy property, and I want you to build a brand new community. I said, Lord, I can talk to a camera. You know, I can write a few words on a page. Where am I going to get $40,000, $50,000 to buy land in Africa? A few churches later, a couple camps later, after sharing the vision, God gave us the ability to buy these 5 acres of land. And this is the main road that cuts through Liberia, and now this is all cleared. And I'll show you in a few moments what the Lord had us put there. I'll show you the reverse side. So this is the drone from the highway looking back at the property. You'll see in a few moments what we have there. You can see here in the mid-left portion of your screen, that's a well that we dug. And now we have over 4,000 people every month who come and they draw free water from that well. And I love to sit there, and they come. All the kids come from all the villages. Most of them, their feet are bleeding by the time they get there because they have to walk about 2.5 kilometers to get to where we are with their empty containers, and they fill it up, and there's so much joy that they get to carry this clean water back to their communities. And they said, God, we've got to do something for these kids. They need a school. They need a place. And so here's that original school that I showed you. I don't know if you can find me. I really blend in when I'm there. These are some of our kids, and the classrooms are very, very basic. A lot of them use dried bamboo leaves to make partitions between classrooms. Very simple desks. This is very normal classroom out there with semi-poured concrete floors. And I said, Lord, they need something more. And so God said, why don't you build them a school? I said, that's an awesome idea, Lord. How about you give me $100,000 during a pandemic to build a school? Well, January 2nd, 2021, we get an email from somebody in the UK. Never heard of them, haven't met them to this day. They said, hey, we saw one of your videos on YouTube of you giving water to these children in a village, and it really touched us, and we'd like to get some more information about you. Can we have a Zoom meeting? I thought, Zoom meeting. I said to Karen, I said, tell them no, I'm not interested. They're probably going to try to sell us something, or no. She said, Joe, it's a Zoom meeting. Like, there's no email involved, there's no phone number. If they're if they're weird, just hit end and it's over, right? Oh, sorry, bad connection, right? Well, within seconds, you could tell these were just wonderful, godly, faithful people. And then they proceed to grill me. What are your intentions for Liberia? I felt like I was dating their daughter. What are your intentions? What are your long-term plans? How do you see sustainability? What's going to happen when you're gone? And all these great questions. And I said, thank you so much for asking, because I've just been working this through. And they said, what do you want to do? Well, we want to build a church and a community center, and then eventually a school and possibly some other buildings. But right now, we really need a community center and a church building on the main road where we can be a witness to our community. And how much is that going to cost? And they said, well, we've already put $30,000 into it. We need at least another $50,000 to complete phase one. And they said, okay, give us your banking details. We'll wire you the money. 5 days later, $50,000 showed up in the account. We said, okay. Well, by the way, you could say amen anytime, or I'm not giving you their number. A few months later, bang, we start building the community center. This is the main hall here. So this is used as a community center where we do vocational training. We do training for nurses and for doctors. We do training for plumbing and electrical, in masonry. And we also have our church services there. And then I said, hey, we undercut the budget. It's actually going to cost twice as much as we thought it was going to be. Everything a pastor loves to hear, everything a leader loves to hear. Not it's cheaper than we thought, it's actually twice as expensive as we thought. They said to me, Pastor Joe, we only gave you the quote for the bricks and the floor. I said, oh, they didn't include the roof? No, we didn't think about the roof. I said, okay, why don't we do a roof? That would be awesome. And we laugh, but the truth is a lot of buildings there are unfinished. There's a lot of concrete buildings. Everybody and his brother gets the idea to build something, but the real money comes in when you start doing the roofing. The trusses, the electrical, the plumbing, the septic, all of that adds up. And I had to go back to those donors who I've never met and said, we need another $60,000 US. They said, you got it. Next thing you know, we finished the building. Come on. And in the back, you can see the foundation for another building. You have to come back for the second service. No, I'm kidding. We'll get to it. And so we're building a community, and we've called it the community of hope, and that's why that song really spoke to me. We're Hope for Liberia, and we're building a community of hope. From the moment people step onto that property, they're pulling off the highways. They're like, why are you building a roof? This must be serious. Who's doing this? They're committed to us. Who's building the roof? The mayor came. Usually when the immigration officers show up, you get a little nervous, but they were so excited. In fact, they're so excited about what we're doing, you're looking at a permanent resident of Liberia. They gave me status. That's why I'm wearing my Liberian suit this morning. And so here we have the community of hope. And so we start to build this community center. We build the offices. We build all this amazing space. And then God wakes me up one morning and he says, chickens. I said, I could go for some chicken. I'm Portuguese. We have chicken for breakfast. I could do that. He said, no, I want you to buy chickens. Start thinking sustainability. Start thinking, because one day you're going to be gone. And so we started to build a chicken coop. And so the guys got out their machetes and they began to clear the area by hand. The next trip I went, and before I know it, we had 500. Chicks follow me everywhere I go. I can't help it. I've been sitting on that joke for a year. It was worth it. I really appreciate the response. And so we got our first batch of 500 chickens. And while I was there, actually on my next trip, they started to lay their first eggs. And when they're really, really producing, it's up to over 10,000 eggs every single month. And whether I'm there or not, this is starting to produce sustainability. And so along with our chickens, I'm just going to have to go real quick here. We go into the villages that are way, way out there that take 3-4 hours by truck to get there. The bridges are scary. I mean, I grew up as a Catholic, and my Catholicism comes back every time we cross a bridge because I cross everything I can. I do whatever I can. And we get out to these villages and we meet, look at these kids, these beautiful, beautiful kids. And we bring them bales of clothing and bags of rice. And this is our sweet little Lopu. She's 4 years old, and we've kind of taken her on as our own. We've brought her from the village into the city, and she stays with some friends. And now she's attending school. She's learning to speak English for the first time in her life. And I can't remember the last time I smiled like that. There's our sweetie, little Lopu. Just some of the children that we minister to in the villages. And one of the things I love to do is eat with the locals. I'm telling you, man, during COVID, we're here, you're taught all these things, and don't do this, and don't touch that, and don't do this, right? And we've all done it. And then you get to Africa, and you get to this village in the middle of nowhere, and they say, come and eat with us, Pastor Joe. I said, sure, no problem. And I'm looking for my fork and my knife and my napkin and my own plate and the serving bowl. And they're like, enjoy. And so here you are, all dipping into the same bowl, going back for seconds and thirds and eating with the people. And I'm telling you, when you begin to eat with the people, it builds a relationship. It starts to build a bond. They changed my name from Pastor Joe to Pastor Kole. And Kole in the Pele tribe means the man who has bright skin. You're looking at Pastor White Guy. And I said, that's true, that's true. Everywhere we go, we have the kids, and they love playing in the water after church. They just love to, they go up there and they pump like crazy, and they love to get that cool, refreshing water. And they follow me everywhere I go. I'm like the Pied Piper. No matter where I go, they come. We go see the chickens, check on them. We walk around. We play soccer together. I can't wait. Like I said, in 2 weeks today, I'll be heading back over there. We work with a blind community. There's about 60 members of this community. And at home, I just received a box of canes, walking canes, to bring back to them because there's no place in the entire country that sells them. They have to rely on donations or maybe shipping containers that might have one or two there. So we're just trying to bless them and help them. And again, for time's sake, I'm just going to go through. There's a story for all these kids. Again, I don't know if you know which one is me. I'm the guy wearing the Hope for Liberia shirt. And they love just to come and to touch, just to get that connection. And there's just a bond that builds. Let me tell you one story, and then I'm going to have Pastor Josh come. We were given permission to go into the second most dangerous ghetto in the country. I won't say the name of the district. And they locked me into a shipping container in the back with them. There's about 60 of us in there. Airtight, no flow, no windows, and they were all shooting up and smoking crack cocaine. And I got a dirty, ugly headache from all the cocaine that was coming into my lungs. And I stayed with them for a few hours and just loved on them and talked to them. And just, again, that little boy would not let go. They said, you're probably the first person to touch him non-violently in his entire life. And man, it just hit me. We invited them back to our community center. This is our center in Carysburg. We invited them in for a time of ministry. I prayed over them. I blessed them. I spoke into their lives. And then we fed them. And then I was in my room that night, and Pastor Sam's wife came running to me, Pastor Joe. And she proceeded to tell me the story. And it was that she said, one of our cooks went into the market tonight. Instead of having to go really early tomorrow she went tonight. And so she got all her food. She had her bags of groceries, was going to take a taxi back. And then a huge fight broke out at the center intersection. Remember, there's no electricity, so there's no working streetlights. So you have 1 million people trying to cross like Young and Dundas. Could you imagine? It's crazy. Chickens and motorcycles, and it's crazy. And a car hit a bike and it fell over, and we see that at least twice a day. It's totally normal. They just get up and they keep going. But a fight broke out with machetes and knives, and there was blood, and the police came, and the military came, and this little woman from our church was stuck in the middle of it, and she was so scared. And 2 guys who you would usually consider to be thugs and gangbangers saw her. And they were at our ministry earlier the day, and they looked at her and they said, "We know you. You're our mother. You shared your food with us." And they made a shield around her, and they walked her out of the danger area and put her in a taxi and sent her home. And that's what love does. When you see people for who they are, you see people as they are, you see people as God sees them, it can change their lives. I have so many more stories, but there's no way we're going to be able to get to that. Let me just say this one final thing that's really in my heart to do. We built a school. And maybe pop onto the Hope for Liberia Facebook or Instagram page, and you can see the building process of the school. That couple from the UK, they sent over $350,000 in order for us to build the community center, the church, the offices, the living space, and the school with 14 classrooms for over 420 kids. It's been an incredible journey, but feeding the kids every day, remember they eat every other day a bowl of rice? Well, now they're getting a warm breakfast and lunch every day. But you know what? That comes at a price. And people say, "We're praying for you." And I appreciate that. Keep praying. But last time I checked, you need money to buy food, to buy the rice, to buy the vegetables, to buy the oatmeal, to pay the staff, right? To cook the food. You got to put fuel in the gas, in the bus tank, which is $9.20 a gallon, but you got to fill it up because you have to go out to those communities. Those kids need to eat. They got to get to school. And we said, "Lord, we can't sustain this kind of ongoing cost. It's over $10,000 a month just to feed the school." And so just like chickens, one day God said, "Okay, it's time to plant those potatoes, Joe." So we've been given the opportunity to buy, like I said, up to 150 acres, but we want to buy 20. And we've already bought 10, and we can get it for $600 an acre. And if we could get 10 acres more, that would give us the ability to grow our own rice to feed the kids every day and all the fruits and vegetables. And so that's our heart's prayer, is that God would speak to his people, because I said, "Lord, give me a ministry I can't do without you." Guess what? I can't buy a farm on my own. I'm a city boy. I can't do this, but Lord, long after I'm gone, that field is going to produce rice and tomatoes and lettuce and onions and green beans and mangoes and papayas and avocados. That's going to keep going long after I'm gone. There's going to be hope for Liberia. So friends, as we emerge from this season with piles of ashes everywhere, come on, church, it's time for us to get up off of our piles of ashes. Dare to obey God, even right here in this community. You don't have to get on a plane and go to Africa. You can just right here get off of your ash and you watch what God will do. Amen? Amen. That's all I got. God bless you.